this is the second of our two Gen Z briefings. It's a series of briefings we ran back in 2018. We'll relaunch these again in September after the summer, where we're going to actually look at Gen X, Gen Y, and some comparative data to Gen Z and also Bloomers as well. So it's really looking at the different age groups and how they vary, particularly across media, social media, advertising, purchasing, and brands, and so on. So today, in the next 40 or so minutes, I'm going to zip through the agenda for today. So again, it's on Gen Z. We're looking at their attitudes to brands. Since we ran this in 2018, we've seen a huge difference in the role of influencers, which I'll talk about. We started some new research on the evolution of how, I suppose, all of us have changed in terms of how we make payments, but particularly driven by Gen Z, who I suppose for many of them have stepped out of more traditional banking or retail banking payment methods. So that's something we're going to start tracking a little bit more over time. We have two case studies to share, both from the US, and no disrespect to any advertising campaign this side of the world, but normally the US are, particularly with advertising, slightly ahead of the curve when it comes to really understanding and I suppose engaging with different and more targeted consumer groups. And in this case, particularly some great examples of campaigns we see coming out of the US. Sorry, quick intro to us. I'm going to flash through this just before anyone asks. The slides will be available, and we are recording this, so it'll go up on our YouTube channel. We'll be able to share links to that as well. Who we are, we run all sorts of research, so online KT, face-to-face phones, and so on. One of the reasons we can do our own research and we run projects like this is because we have our own panel. We have a panel of about 40,000 consumers here in Ireland, and we use those for a very regular survey methodology we use called our Omnibus. That runs twice every month. We deliver 1,000 responses on a national representative basis. And because of that, we can then start seeding our own questions for projects like this. We also have a teen and a youth panel, and this is what we've very much used for Gen Z, where we can talk to younger consumers from 14 to 18, and then as they evolve into adulthood, 18 plus. So that gives us some unique capability to be able to tap into different cohorts, not just adults, but younger age groups. I won't talk about this in terms of Omnibus that runs twice every month. I mentioned our specialist panels, our teens and Gen Z, which we'll come back to again. In terms of the methodology behind this, we've run, and as I said, we've seeded questions in our own Omnibus pretty much throughout the year. It's a refresh on 2018 surveys we did. However, we've updated it in terms of new social media platforms, as I said, new ways of payments, the evolution of influencers, and so on. Not using the data from this one, in the first briefing, for those of you who may not have attended, we had two cohorts, Gen Z. We have 310 respondents, and that's the same cohort we're using in this second briefing. We also spoke to parents of Gen Z. We looked at different challenges that they see. One of the areas we focused on are the emotional impacts of particularly social media. We spoke about resilience and how most parents believe their children aren't as resilient today as they were in the past, mainly due to social media. But we know the power of social media. So that first briefing looks at trusted social media sites, some issues around cyberbullying and how Gen Z are reacting to that, and then some views of parents. And if you haven't attended and that's of interest to you, let me know. Why are Gen Z important? Gen Z are important because there's a lot of them. When we look at 13 to 18-year-olds, there's over 400,000 of those nationwide. So it's a big chunk of younger consumers. When we look at the next cohort, that's slightly ager group, 19 to 24, which do sit within Gen Z, we see another 377,000 based on the most recent CSO data. So that represents about 16% of the total population in Ireland. If you were to strip out those under 14, that jumps up to about 30%. And if you were to strip out those 65 plus, suddenly you get a very, very significant consumer and a very changing consumer, an evolving consumer that grows from 15, 16, finishing the leaving cert, going through early years of college, coming out of college into their first job or into a PhD, and then they evolve into the other generations. Y is the next one up, which we'll look at in September, series of briefings. So we wanted to really try and understand, how do Gen Z interact with brands and what's important to them. It's great that we can compare and contrast data over the last 5 years. So this is all pre-COVID, and it's probably good to kind of iron out that COVID spike. But COVID obviously has changed all of us in terms of how we purchase, and no different for Gen Z. If we look back in 2018, no surprise, clothes, the highest purchased category, followed by food, footwear, accessories, and so on at 19%. When we look at 2023 for Gen Z, and this is in their own words, we asked them just to tell us in their own words what they purchase most commonly. 79% purchase clothes, 71% food, groceries, and they're likely to be your Deliveroos, your Just Eats in terms of door-to-door delivery, and then again 37% footwear and accessories. So in essence, they're purchasing dramatically more, both online as well as in stores. But the assumption has to be, with COVID, for all of us, we saw a massive shift in terms of attitudes to purchasing, how they were purchasing, and I think we've all learned about being comfortable buying online, particularly clothes, because most brands have a great return service and so on. So the brands and the sellers themselves have done a great job making it easy to purchase, particularly clothes online, and that's the single biggest purchase area for Gen Z. We wanted to replicate the questions we asked back in 2018 in terms of their favorite online sites, or the online sites they most commonly use, again in their own words. Amazon was tops back in 2018, Boohoo, and again, they would have been one of the early retailers coming into clothes selling online. eBay were big at the time, and then only 19% would have looked to high street retailers' websites. Highest amongst males, surprisingly enough. Females 13% back in 2018, more likely because females will be visiting and going into the retail outlets themselves. When we look at 2023, Amazon still tops, growing from 40% to 60%, a big growth across both genders, males 65, females 54. ASOS stands out as one of the bigger single online retailers mentioned, highest amongst females 59%. Boohoo still gets a mention, Pretty Little Things still get a mention as leading online retailers. But the biggest shift, which I think is really interesting, if you look at 2018, 19% bought from a high street retailer's website, that's jumped to 52%, highest amongst females at 57%. So that's our BT, Arnott, Zara, JD Sports, and Pennies, and so on. So again, a real jump in terms of those. And then just to flag, where eBay accounted for 23% of online sales in 2018, has dropped right down to 12%. So we see a big shift in terms of the importance of those, what you might call bricks and mortars and online retailers, where they can go in, you can browse around the store, and then if you feel it's more appropriate or easier or more convenient to buy online, then you can do so. So that's a real significant shift in the last 5 years. And there's no doubt COVID has been a key influencing factor in that also. We asked 2018 what's most important in terms of purchasing for Gen Z. 93% say price or said price, quality 70%, highest amongst females at 53%. Appearance, so the look and feel, and the fit. And fit has really evolved over time, particularly amongst Gen Z in terms of being comfortable with different body shapes and so on. So price has fallen in importance to 64%, as has quality, which is surprising. Appearance is still important, but not a standout importance as it was previously. But what we see is a massive shift, which totally surprised me when I think of Gen Z. Ethical practices, 29% have stated that the ethical practices of the retailer or the food, or sorry, or the clothes manufacturer or distributor is significantly important in deciding what brands to purchase. So that really is a significant shift we've seen since 2018. What's also important, and we'll touch on this when we look at social media, what friends think, 21% the source of materials, 26%, and buying, and the influence, sorry, of role models being like me, 17%. So we see a whole new variety of purchasing factors that we didn't see in 2018 that we see as key triggers for brand selection or for buying from particular brands in 2023. Media channels, we asked, and again, probably no surprise back in 2018, what were the media channels most used to follow brands and personalities? Facebook, 87%, pretty consistent across both genders. YouTube, 53%. Instagram, 47%, a much higher usage in terms of following personalities for females at 57%. And then Twitter was the third most important social media channel at 33%, most highly used by 38% of males. We see a significant shift in 2023. Obviously, the evolution of TikTok. TikTok wasn't around back in 2018, so that's really shifted the social media dynamics for Gen Z. And when we look at the case studies, we've one really good case study on a brand using TikTok for brand engagement. Instagram has jumped 47% to 60%, a significant jump for across both genders. TikTok, as I said, has pretty much come from nowhere in the last 5 years. YouTube has retained an importance in terms of following brand and personalities, slightly down since 2018 at 47%. However, we see a fall off from females in terms of using YouTube as a brand. So YouTube, as you know, will be very popular with gamers and other personalities or influencers that males may follow. And then Snapchat has made an appearance in 2018. And interestingly, Snapchat more popular for males in terms of following brands and personalities. A key thing we wanted to also uncover, particularly this year, is what are the factors of trust. We saw in the previous briefing in June, TikTok is a really trusted social media platform for Gen Z. Facebook and Twitter are probably the two most distrusted social media channels. So we wanted to understand what really drives trust, not just in terms of the social media channels used or the content consumed, but also what influences connection with a brand or what brand attributes really engage with Gen Z. So brand look and feel, no surprise, 67%, slightly higher at 71% of males. What I think is really interesting, as I mentioned already in the previous slide, couple of slides back, is those ethical issues. So fair wages to its employees, 56%. Environmental issues, sustainability, 44%, diversity, 40%. So these are Gen Z teens and youths in Ireland. This is a absolutely Irish study, and you can see that huge extent in terms of brand engagement across Gen Z, transparency of ethics, social responsibility. So really reaching across the board in all areas that brands and all of us have a role to play, but particularly in terms of employee fair wages, diversity, transparency, responsibility, and so on. But I find it surprising the importance of social media as an influencer on brand choice. It's 29%, highest amongst females at 34%. And we saw in our previous briefing the importance of social media, more important for females in terms of the amount of time spent, content consumed, and so on. So it's still important, but it doesn't hide if a brand is greenwashing and saying they're diverse or saying they're paying fair wages or they're environmentally responsible. No matter how good they are on social media, that's not going to hide that greenwashing. Then the last two, social media, community engagement, 15%, and last but not least, influencer endorsement. And when we look at the next section, we'll explore that in a bit more detail. But back in 2018, influencers were hugely important in terms of brand connection, and that's changed dramatically since 2018 when we ran the first study. We asked unprompted what were the favorite brands. Global brands, no surprise, Nike, Adidas, Lots of others. Apple appeared in terms of those brands that people found important. When we look at it again, it's really interesting. It's a much more diverse range of brands. There's very few brands that stand out. Highest is Primark. I suppose you might call a local or UK Irish brand. Pennies. Nike, 9% global brand. Amazon, 7% global brand. And then we see an absolute diversity of other brands, both local, both European, both global, both international. So the whole brand engagement has changed quite dramatically, where global brands have less, I suppose, have less connection with Gen Z, where it is more accessible, more localized, or more available. And online has changed that quite dramatically, away from huge TV campaigns, radio campaigns that big global brands used to make connection with all of us. That's changed dramatically into social media. Why they like a particular brand? Quality comes out. Again, for Gen Z, matches my personality, and it's hard for any global brand to connect with every different type of buyer when they're running a huge TV campaign. The brand wearing the brand makes me feel elite. So the triggers back in 2018 have changed, not a huge amount, but a certain amount. So high quality remains important. Represents my values has shifted from represents my personality. So again, that ties into that ethical connection that Gen Z feel they have with sustainability, with climate action, and so on. And matches my style. So a shift from makes me feel great to I wanted to, look like me. I wanted to be as part of how I feel, my style. Other ones, again, because we've seen that shift through COVID and post-COVID, other things that actually stand out for a brand is quick delivery, is again that minimal sustainability impact, minimal climate impact. And interestingly, those other factors are much higher for males, and where females, those ethical issues come out more strongly in terms of what connects with their favorite brand. So just on the role of influencers, what really has opened my eyes to the change over the last number of years, you'll see here. So in 2018, celebrities, let's call them, were important for 53% of Gen Z, highest amongst males at 63%. Family and friends, 35%, highest for females at 40% in terms of a role model that Gen Z would follow. Teachers, 19%. Then the social media influencer, 19%, highest, surprisingly enough, for males at 23%. That could easily be more YouTube at the time, Facebook, around more gaming, sports, music, and so on. And then 21% of the end said they don't have one. When we look at 2023, we see a significant jump in the role of celebs, and we'll explore that a little bit more in the next couple of slides. So up to 72%. If you can see the male number, 93% of males see celebs as a role model. And again, that's a lot of them will be music, movies, sports. Reality TV has made a huge difference over the last 5 years in terms of influencers, be it a Love Island contestant and so on. Parents have grown in importance, and when we looked at our last briefing in June, trust in social media, having support in terms of cyberbullying, the family members, particularly and friends, have jumped significantly from 35 to 52%, highest amongst females, growing from 40% in 2018 to 69%. So that actual trusted source that Gen Z can engage with, or can talk to, or see as a role model is dramatically different. Teachers, unfortunately for them, haven't changed an awful lot. Social media influencer is much weaker. Well, sorry, not much weaker. At 17%, but much weaker for females, down from 17 to 13%, weakened for males. So that influencer, that person who just was online, was just an influencer, maybe with not much else behind that, has really weakened again. And we saw the signs of that even going back to then. And then don't have one actually has fallen. So that means that there are more Gen Z look to role models than we saw in 2018. A little bit of a shift in 2018, 23% of females didn't have a role model. That's down to 15%. 15% of males didn't have a role model. That's increased. So there are less males with role models, interestingly enough, since 2018, but more females have role models in 2023 than they did before. We asked, do you follow brands and personalities on social media in 2018? 17% said yes, 16% said a personality, both 37%, and 30% of all Gen Z didn't follow a personality. Just, I don't know how well you can see it, but if you look on that 30%, only 15% of males said they didn't follow a personality back in 2018 on social media. 37% of females said they didn't follow a personality back in 2018. So when we look at 2023, the overall numbers haven't changed much. So following a brand, 17 has gone to 18. Following a personality has gone from 16 to 18. Those not following a brand, that in red has fallen from 28 to 30, from 30 to 28. However, if you look at the gender splits, that's quite significant. So today, only 20% of females don't follow a personality or brand online. That's fallen 17% from 37%. So we've seen a big growth in the number of females that actually are following brands on social media. And then the inverse has happened. There are a lot less males following brands on social media. So while the overall numbers of Gen Z following brands and personalities on social media is pretty consistent or hasn't changed an awful lot in overall percentage terms, we see a big shift in the number of males stopping or not following brands and personalities online anymore, compared to a significant increase in females who are now following brand and personalities online. And probably no surprise, we probably had a sense of that. If you've Gen Z children or any children, or even if you're following role models yourselves, we see a big difference in that. What was important in 2018 to why somebody would, or what Gen Z looked for in a role model: confidence, intelligence, relatability. We see that coming through all the time. Relatability, especially amongst females in 2018 at 63%, and success being more important for males back in 2018 at 54% compared to females. When we try and compare and contrast that with 2023, intelligence is important. Confidence remains important as the top two, slightly less standout in terms of percentages, but confidence again, much more important for females at 62% compared to males at 50%. So females are looking for role models that they might feel more confident or more relatable to, as we see at 47%, highest amongst females at 62%. So that relatability, that confidence, that being able to look at somebody who may have the same emotional issues or concerns, or other issues at Gen Z age, where they're going through a lot of change, both mentally and physically. Success is important, but not as important. And then what we see for the first time, independence. And I think that has really come out with so many influencers and I suppose social media sites really trying to ensure that if an influencer is promoting a product or a beauty product or a particular brand, that there's a clear transparency in terms of what's in it for them. And that independence jumps up to 46% for females. So they want it to be trusted, relatable, a confident role model. And I think we've seen that shift coming through over the last number of years. And I think this is what it's all down to. Does your role model influence the brands you purchase? 35% say yes. And that's interestingly, back in 2018, 35% said yes, pretty flat across both genders, and 12% said somewhat. So that is a total of 47%, that there is some level of influence. That's jumped up by 6% since then. But I think the big shift is the genders. If we look at those males who have a role model or an influencer that does impact on their purchase decisions, that's jumped from 36% to 45% in the last few years. The somewhat for females has increased a little bit, but the males that say no has fallen from 64% in 2018 as in a role model doesn't influence their brands or purchase, has fallen to 45% in 2023. So in essence, what we're saying is that more males in the last 5 years are now influenced in terms of brands they purchase because of role models. What are the personality types that they follow? Clothing brands, the key ones back in 2018, realistically, and then bottom right, social media personalities were the key personalities that was followed on social media. That's changed dramatically. 62% music singers, bands are key personalities or brands that are followed online. Highest amongst females or girls at 67%. Clothing brands have jumped significantly, 33% to 61%. Again, very strong across both males at 56%, females 66%. Celebrities, we see a significant jump in terms of celebrities. For males, maybe, and both females, obviously TV stars, reality TV has really changed the dial in terms of who and what a celeb looks like today. Food and drinks brands, a huge jump, as we saw, was the second most purchased product amongst Gen Z, highest amongst males at 44%. Activists, 38%, again, interestingly enough, highest amongst 56% of males. And then social media personalities has increased a little bit, not for males, but has jumped from up to 41% of females follow social media personalities on social media. We asked, do celebrities and social media personalities have a large impact on brands they purchase? In 2018, 18% said yes, highest amongst males at 23%. When we look at 2023, we see that jumping up to 43%. So those that, so yeah, so there's a clear connection between Gen Z and the importance of personalities and celebrities. And my contention would be it's much more celebrities in 2023 than it is influencers, what we would have called just pure social media influencers back in 2018. So that's a significant shift, almost identical across both genders. 43% of males, 44% of males say celebrities and social media personalities have a large impact on the brands they purchase. Final couple of slides in this section. Which social media sites or which influencers on which sites have the biggest impact? Instagram, back in 2018, 49%, highest amongst females at 57%. Facebook was hugely important, highest amongst males at 62%. We saw Snapchat and YouTube both at 23% back in 2018. Obviously, TikTok has come from nowhere, really, I suppose, since 2018. That is the most followed site for Gen Z when it comes to the influence of personalities and celebs. The most, highest amongst females, no surprise, at 60%, I think. Instagram, again, 39%, highest amongst females at 49%. YouTube has grown a little bit in importance, again, highest for males at 36%. And then Facebook has plummeted from 47% in terms of the site used to follow personalities and influencers, has fallen to 17%. So a massive shift for Gen Z in these areas. And when we come back in September, one of the areas we're now able to look at is how does the use of social media influence, for example, across Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, differ, and that's where we start seeing some real differences in terms of the social media sites being used. So the final section before we move to our case studies, this is very, very short. It's really, I suppose, the start of a journey as we see Gen Z, I suppose, being that generation that has a much wider range of payment options than we ever had before, and pure online financial service brands. However, most still use debit cards, 22%, highest amongst males. Cash is still out there, 21%. Mobile payments, probably more highly used highly used in Gen Z than other generations, particularly older generations. But the evolution we've seen, which is why we want to start tracking payments, and I said this is our first baseline in 2023. Obviously, the evolution of Revolut is hugely popular amongst Gen Z, highest in popularity and usage amongst 21% of females. PayPal, we know, is hugely popular. Credit cards, only 6%. Obviously, age is an issue. And then other forms, bank transfers, what we would used to call a hire purchase, or buying something and paying it over 36 months or whatever. We asked in terms of when people are making a purchase, what way do they prefer to pay? 82% would prefer to pay in one go. Highest amongst females, 88%. However, we're seeing this evolution of a wide range of options where people can purchase and pay over a short period of time with no interest. So sometimes that's as little as 3 months or 6 months, probably at most. It's something that's been offered by many retailers. There's even depending on which sites you use, many Amazon sites, you can pay it interest-free over 3 months or a number of weeks. And then this is the old-fashioned kind of hire purchase, or spreading interest over likely 12, 24, 36 months. So it's the 14% that we're interested in terms of how that will evolve over time. So we asked Gen Z, have they used a no interest installment plan? So that's kind of like buy now, pay later. Interesting, 21% of Gen Z have said yes, they have. Highest amongst males at 29% compared to females, which concurs with what we saw earlier. Females want to pay upfront, and then, you know, but we think that will evolve over time as some of these brands become more, I suppose, more popular or higher profile. Klarna is the one that has the highest awareness of buy now, pay later providers. Used by 30% of those that did buy now, pay later, highest amongst males, as we saw, offered by retailers directly. So we see more and more retailers doing this, but then would actually pass the transaction off to a third party. And we see that happening 28% times, or just shy of 1/3. Other brands are going to start tracking open pay, afterpay. So the range, so it's an evolving area. Sometimes as consumers purchasing from a retailer, as I said, it could go to a Klarna, could go to an open pay or afterpay provider. So that's something that I think we'll see a much higher uptake. And bottom right, we see others 31%, and that's my expectation. As we start tracking this, we'll see some of those brands hidden behind the retailers becoming more pronounced, and greater awareness over time. Okay, so we got through a lot there, and I said that the slides will be available. I wanted to share 2 case studies. The first one being Converse. So Converse is a long-standing brand. I think it's about 100 years old. So it's been around a while. But I think they've done a really, really good job tapping into Gen Z. So I'm going to click on this. Okay, Okay, I'm just going to show you this one again. So again, short format videos.
I'm not buying any new shoes. Not even if they're from Converse. Oh, I'm just window shopping. Maybe just 1 pair, but definitely not 2. Unless it's a colorway that I don't own already, or a new release. I won't get a pair of 1 stars after I stock up. I'm never coming back here.
So again, a lot. Okay. Okay, so you see there, so again, totally at odds, I suppose, if you talk about the tradition of Converse. Obviously, it's still a hugely popular brand, especially amongst Gen Z. As you can see, the ads are not like ads, they're not seen as ads, they're very engaging. There's a kind of a fun, relaxed attitude. It's a bit raw and ready around the videos taken, but it's relatable. It's short. It's you know, it works. But the thing with Converse is they have a whole stack of videos covering a whole range of different approaches and different fun ways to engage with the Gen Z consumers, and Gen Z love the brand, and their sales are extraordinarily strong for a brand that's over 100 years old. The other one, which is a little bit different, I want to share, and I'm just going to kind of go straight to the video. This is for Walmart, again, a kind of a big old brand from the US. And they have actually, they work with a lot of celebrities, the likes of Drew Barrymore, John Legend, Kevin Hart, and so on. So they really get celebs and not influencers. The current campaign they've just launched very recently is they call their shopping cart campaign. So it's looking at what celebs use in their shopping cart. So Becky G is one of the celebs. She has something like 38 million followers on, I think, Instagram. Patrick Mahomes is probably the most famous current NFL quarterback player. And the one I'm going to use actually is Barbie, because I just thought Barbie is in the news so much. I just thought it'd be fun just to look at this. And so a little bit different. So hopefully, again, you can all see this. But again, if you don't see a big Barbie video on your screen, let me know.
Are we rolling? Follow me.
Hiya, Barbie. Big night coming up, right?
Oh, yeah, and fast.
So, what do you say to people who try to put you in a box?
Wouldn't be the first.
Your confidence is legendary. Do you ever get nervous?
Oh, sure. I get butterflies sometimes, and not the cute fluttery kind.
How do you handle that?
Lately, pickleball. It's a super fun way to work off some nervous energy and get pumped up at the same time. Sorry, Ken.
Any thoughts on nail art?
Well, I'm loving my new color. Welcome to Barbie Land. Mixing it up is a fun way to express yourself, but keeping it classic can say a lot too. Same with my outfit. It's important to choose something that lets me be me. So I'll probably go with something bold and confident.
Is it true you have a glam squad?
You could say that.
Ah, I love it. Any plans for after your big night?
Oh, yeah. I'm gonna keep the good times rolling with a thank you party for my friends right here at the Dream House.
Well, thank you, Barbie. This has been so much fun.
Sure. Thanks for being a part of my biggest and best summer ever.
Oh, what? Oh, man.
Bye, everyone.
So that was just an example of a little bit different. It mightn't play straight into TikTok. However, I wouldn't be surprised that they'll splice that into, it's a 2-minute ad, so splice it into 4 TikTok ads, and suddenly you've got a little bit of content. It's a celeb. Barbie obviously is all in the news with the Barbie movie coming out, but they've taken a slightly different view, probably a cheaper view in terms of engaging with a celebrity. So that was just giving you 2 examples of both how brands are engaging with celebrities. They don't have to be the youngest, funkiest, coolest brand in the world. And I don't think anyone would suggest Walmart is that. Converse, again, has done a great job engaging with Gen Z. And I think they just give a great sense of the opportunities, and hopefully you've gained some good knowledge of our understanding and our data around Gen Z. As I said, the recordings will be available next week. So the last couple of minutes, thank you for your punctuality. I've tried to keep as punchy as possible. Any questions before we wrap up? I'm just conscious of all of us and all of you have your day job to get to, and lunch possibly. So if there's any questions, please let me know. Let me just see if I can open up my chat box. So a couple of questions. Let me just see. A couple of people. Yes, the slides and the recordings will be available. We'll start sending out. Sorry, question on the next briefing. So yeah, we'll start looking at those probably early September in terms of sending out invites that are likely to run late back end of September. Maybe we'll probably just do two more, one in September comparing the different generations, and then maybe one in October, probably before not Easter, Halloween and so on, to do that. And a question on why do Gen Z love TikTok? I think I spoke about that, but I think there's a lot in TikTok. It's fun. You saw the quality of the ads. They're very rough and ready. And I think not necessarily saying those Converse ads were cheap to make, but they kind of feel like somebody's just made them and probably did traveling around the world. And so I think that retains that fun element to it. And I think that's a good lesson to make it feel like it's been made by a Gen Z for Gen Z. And I think TikTok and good campaigns are good at that. So I'm bang on 1:15. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to end the meeting. Any questions, feel free. You have my and Juliet's email details. And I said we'll be back next week in terms of sharing and making the content available. So thank you, everyone, for your time.
That's great. Thank you, Oisin. Very interesting.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. See you all.